Chef Danie. I have a restaurant in Ocean Springs, Mississippi, so I'm bringing a little Mississippi to Louisiana today. We're cooking local Gulf seafood. We're doing fresh flounder, which is real prevalent in our area, so we do that a lot. We're doing a flounder caprese, but I'm going to show you how to start a risotto, and then I'm going to show you how to finish the risotto off. And what I have in the pan here is some risotto that I've par cooked, but what I'm going to show you to begin with is how to start a risotto, and we're going to do a crab risotto today.
Hello everyone, Chuck Subra, born and raised in New Iberia, Louisiana, moved to New Orleans to come to culinary school and haven't left since. I'm the executive chef of Cote Brasserie, which is in the warehouse district in the bottom of the Renaissance Arts Hotel. Welcome. I'm going to be preparing today a Louisiana seafood stew with a sweet potato black pepper biscuit.
All right, sounds good. I'm going to start out the risotto, but risotto takes about 20-30 minutes to prepare if you've ever made it at home. Risotto uses an arborio rice, which is an Italian rice. It's a shorter, fatter rice. It's really starchy, so it makes a creamy product in the end, which is what the risotto is. And I'm going to start out the pan with a couple cloves of garlic and some extra virgin olive oil. Now this pan, remember, I'm just going to show you how to get started because it does take 20 minutes and I don't have 20 minutes up here. So I'm going to show you how to start it, and then I'm going to show you how to cheat and finish it up if you want to make some ahead of time and then have a quick meal at home. But we're going to get some fresh garlic in the bottom of the pan. I have 2 cups of risotto. Now you want the garlic to kind of cook for a few minutes. You don't want it to brown, definitely. Brown garlic means you got to throw it away and start all over again. But we're going to get the garlic cooking, and then we're going to add about 2 cups of risotto. Now risotto you cook differently than regular rice because you want the risotto to kind of not brown but tan a little bit. So we're going to get it going, and it's going to take just a few minutes for that to tan, and then we're going to add some white wine to the pan. And while that's starting, you can go ahead and start on yours if you have something.
Sure. I'll turn the fire down a little bit, make sure it's, there we go. So we're going to start off with a nice warm pot, put it over medium heat, a little bit of salad oil or canola oil if you're watching your cholesterol. We're going to start off with onions, a little bit of red bell pepper, and we're going to cook that for a few minutes. Keep stirring it. You want to saute the onions and the bell peppers to where they're clear. You really don't want to caramelize them too much. While that's cooking, we're going to put in a little bit of Cajun seasoning. I make my own at the restaurant. It's paprika, thyme, oregano, salt, pepper, and black pepper, plus a few other things that can't mention. You also can use a Tonus Sacheries or another Louisiana Cajun seasoning. I like to use one. I don't put a lot of salt in it because I don't like the food too salty. So I make mine very low sodium.
All right, I've got my rice. It's about ready for me to add the wine to it. And I know you can't see this burner. Maybe if I move it up. The rice gets kind of a little translucent, not all the way, but it starts to look a little translucent when it's time to start adding the wine. And I've got a white wine. Now you need to use a wine that you like. It doesn't need to be expensive, but remember when you cook with wine it reduces the flavor of the wine. If you don't like the flavor to begin with, you're not going to like it when it reduces. So buy something inexpensive, but buy something that you like. We're going to put that in the pan, and you need to cook the wine out for just a few minutes.
Okay, now we're going to add a little bit of garlic, a little bit of fresh chopped garlic. So while that's cooking, we're going to let that saute for a few minutes. Put in a little bit of salt. Go ahead and put it in the beginning. And a little bit of pepper. I put the pepper in now. I can always add a little bit later. But I find a lot of times, even if you put it in while you saute in the vegetable, it brings out the oils out of the pepper. So it brings the flavor out a little bit more.
You got some beautiful colors going on over there.
Next, what we're going to do is, I'm a very big fan of cooking with beer. I love cooking at home with beer. If I'm barbecuing, I'm sitting out in the yard, I'll cook sweet potatoes with beer. Just different things with beer, marinades with beer. I don't drink out the beer before I put it in the marinade. I'll pour it in and then I finish the beer. That's the best way to do it. Any Louisiana beer, Abita Amber, LA 31, all of them are very good. Deglaze the skillet with it. It's going to bubble a little bit. It's okay. And then we're going to reduce that by half.
While you're reducing over there, I'm ready to go. I've cooked most of the wine out. You can see it's cooked down into the rice. So now would be the time where you're going to add broth. Now, you can make broth if you'd like. It's the first thing that you learn in culinary school and probably the thing you use the least. You can buy some really good broths out there. And you're supposed to warm the broth before you make risotto, but I'm not a believer that you have to do that. It just helps the risotto cook faster if you do. I use it straight from the box usually. And we're going to pour that in. Now, this is where I'm going to have to change pans because you're going to put the broth in the pan and you're going to cook that broth out as every time. You're going to add about a cup at a time and you're going to cook the broth out, add more and cook it out until the risotto gets done. This whole process takes about 20 minutes. So I've par cooked some over here and that's going to take us from this step to the next step. So I'm going to switch out pans real quick.
Also, another nice thing when you're cooking at home with broth, like she said, I like to find the low sodium stuff. A lot of times the other stuff has really a lot of salt in it, so you end up making something and it's way too salty. Remember, you can always add salt to something. It's hard to take it out. Okay, while we have that rolling, our beer is reduced by about half. I'm going to go ahead and add fresh Louisiana shrimp. We're going to get that cooking.
And I'm at the stage here where I need to add some more broth. So I'm going to go ahead and get that in here. And in my front pan, I'm going to get that warmed up because we're going to do our fish in there. We have flounder, and it's flounder caprese. And what we're going to do is we're going to top the flounder with a caprese salad, basically, with the fresh tomatoes, mozzarella, and fresh basil. Now, our mozzarella at the restaurant is made by a local dairy farm. It's called Country Girls Dairy Farm, and we use all the mozzarella that we get in the restaurant, we get from them. We get all of our ricotta, our milks, everything from them. We're really conscious of what's in the milk, and we try to make sure that it's fresh and local. So when we get to the mozzarella, that's a fresh mozzarella from them that they make just for us. I have some extra virgin olive oil in my pan, and I'm also going to add a little butter to that in just a minute. But as you can see, this risotto I had cooked down for the 20 minutes. I've added a little bit more broth. But now comes the fun part, because now we get to add the flavorings. And you can do anything from this point on. But right now I'm going to add some tomatoes. And I'm going to add a little bit of cream. This is about a cup of cream. It's going to depend on how much you're making as to how much you add. And then once you get that all mixed in, you want to add some kind of cheese. And I'm a big fan of cheeses. So we're going to add an Asiago cheese and a little bit of the mozzarella in the end to complement the dish.
While that's working, I'm going to add a little bit of my seafood stock that we make in-house. Right in. We're going to add a touch of cream. Heavy whipping cream. You can find that in your dairy section at the grocery store. And two of my favorite things. A little bit of hot sauce. It depends on what I'm using. I use both Tabasco and Crystal. This is using Crystal hot sauce. And Worcestershire sauce. I find that both of them, especially the Worcestershire, gives it a nice smoky flavor, but it adds just a little bit of vinegar into it too. So it gives it a little bit of background flavor. We're going to get that cooking real quick, and when the shrimp are about halfway cooked, we're going to add a little bit of Louisiana's finest, Breaux Bridge crawfish. How you looking over there?
I've got a fresh flounder fillet here that we filleted. These are Gulf flounders. Now we use them in their natural state. Some people cut them into different shapes, but we like to use the flounder whole, the whole half a flounder. And I'm going to go ahead and season that. We have a special seasoning at the restaurant that we use. It's a blend of a bunch of different herbs. And then of course we're going to need a little salt. And I need a little pepper, but now I use fresh pepper. I like fresh ground pepper. Always. I'm really picky about that. I think you can taste the difference, but some people say you can't. I'm going to get just a little piece of butter in this pan. I say a little piece, it's about a tablespoon. Now, olive oil has a very low smoking temperature, which means when you put the olive oil on, if you leave the pan and walk away, your whole kitchen's going to be filled with smoke. We do it all the time. Butter you can go a little bit longer with, but butter actually adds a little bit of extra fat that keeps it from smoking as much. So I'm going to get that in the pan, and I'm going to simply put my flounder, the seasoned side down, and we're going to let that cook for just a few minutes, about 2 minutes on each side, because we're still going to go into the oven just to melt some cheese on the top of that. And my risotto is actually finished. I don't know if you can see that. It's really creamy, it's cheesy, it's got the tomatoes, it's ready to go. Now it's going to have crab meat in it, but the crab we're going to add at the very end. We don't really need to cook the crab, and the heat from the risotto is going to warm the crab up. So we're going to add that at the very end before we put the fish on the top.
So now that we got the shrimp getting there, we're going to go ahead and add the crawfish. Crawfish are already cooked, about a pound. We're going to add the Louisiana oysters, and we're going to let that cook for a little bit.
I'm going to go ahead and top this fish, and I'm going to show you what I would normally do if I were doing this in the restaurant, because we would cook the fish in the pan, and then we would top it with the tomatoes, and I believe you can see that pan out there, with the tomatoes and the fresh basil, and then we're going to top these with some mozzarella. And since the fish is almost done, we're just going to finish that in the oven, and then we would serve that on top of the risotto in a nice big dish like this.
Yep, everything's getting nice and warm, and we're getting the shrimp about half. Shrimp are almost all the way cooked through. So as soon as they're cooked through, we're going to throw in the crab meat, the merleton at the very end, taste it for seasoning, salt, pepper. If you add if you like it a little bit spicy, add a little bit of hot sauce.